right, welcome to the third and final review of the evening. But before we get to that, this review is quasi brought to you by Deep Dive Interactive and their game Vengeful Rites. I say quasi because they wanted to do a giveaway with us, and they wanted it to be within a span of 10 days. And this was the closest thing we could do under the circumstances. So if you recall, Vengeful Rites is a VR RPG. We had the developers on our program not too long ago to talk about that. And right now the game is 25% off, going for $14.99. And we are giving away 2 codes. Just go down into our Discord, and they will be there. It's first come, first serve, as is always the case with these things.
Well, actually, we have the raffle giveaway bot going on right now.
Okay.
So just hit the reaction thing with the popper. I forget what reaction emote it is, but as long as you have reactions on in Discord, just click the thing that giveaway bot put up in the actual giveaways channel, and you will be entered to win.
Yeah. On that note, Petty, make sure that there's a link to the Vengeful Rites game when you cut the episode, because that is, once again, that is a specific request made. So with all of that obligation out of the way, One Finger Death Punch 2. Once again, this is a game we did an interview with Silver Dollar Games a few weeks back. Like, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, so if you want to if you want to learn about the nuts and bolts of how this product was created, be sure to go into the archive and watch that episode. Once again, if you missed that, One Finger Death Punch 2, well, it's kind of what it says on the tin. It is a brawler. More specifically, we call this thing a belt scroller. That is to say, enemies keep coming on the screen like a conveyor belt, and your job is to kill them. Mm-hmm. It's like back in if you ever played Kung Fu for the NES, it's like that, but even more limited, believe it or not. Because once again, going back to the title, all you are delivering is one finger death punches, and there are only 2 buttons in the game, X and B, and that's for left and right.
Although, there is a surprising amount you can do with those buttons.
Yeah, it's like this game has a surprising amount of depth for such a simple concept. This isn't like this is unusual because this isn't a game that you'd necessarily be spending only 15 minutes with. In fact, the game kind of counts on that because there is a lot of content here. There are multiple maps, which are fairly spacious. I think about 10 maps or so.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Because it's like each, completing the first map gave me about 10 to 14%, maybe a little less. But and that's just the story mode, as it were, or the map mode. Well, it's like the single player mode. But it's like, it's got survival mode, which is, last as long as you can. And, it's like, there's a lot of stuff here. That being said, while I admire the amount of content in the game, it's like the gameplay doesn't necessarily back it up because, there is only so much you can do with the whole concept. I guess what I'm trying to say is, even though this is a really good, really polished conceit, it's still pretty limited, and it's it's gonna get stale sooner rather than later. No matter
Mhm.
what they do, and there is a lot that they do, like different kinds of enemies. It's like you've not only like after you've got your basic moves that go down in one hit. You've got your blue goons who, if you attack in their direction, they'll go to the other direction. So you got to hit the other direction. You got enemies.
Guys that take more than one hit. Guys that put you into a mini DDR dealie with still only the 2 buttons, but like to beat that one guy, you have to hit left and right a certain number of times in the right order.
Yeah, those are called brawlers. There are also boss, where they combine the the multiple hits and the brawling mechanics, as a final test, basically. And
you're also dealing with 3 different types of ranged attacks, 3 or 4. Like there are ones that you can dodge, ones that you can deflect, ones that you can dodge that then go past and hit you the other side, ones that you can just deflect, and ones that you can grab and then your next attack is a thrown attack. And there are also some enemies that have weapons on them that you can take after you beat them.
Yeah, and for the record, that's one of the new things with One Finger Death Punch 2, the throwing system. That was not in the original game. And indeed, by the dev's own admission, with this game out, there is no reason to pick up One Finger Death Punch 1, unless you just really want more content, but not as polished. It's like this game, really has a lot going. It has a lot of animation, especially when I'm not sure what triggers it, but every so often, you'll do super moves.
I think they said it's just kind of like a random thing.
Yeah. It's and you can build towards that. You get power-ups in the sense of skill points, and you can feed those into various attacks that will clear one side or the other or both. And it's done in a variety of fashions. There's the subway punch, for lack of a better term. It's you punch and it's like the entire force of a subway train flies on screen, like a literal subway train being used in a figurative manner. It's a symbol. This punch is hitting with that much force. And then there's the triple combo where this one fighter is punching, this one fighter is kicking, and so on and so forth. And then there's the dance moves, where you just start breakdance fighting. And there's actually a couple of variants on that. The special moves here are, they have different durations. The J-pop dance fight thing, that lasts a pretty long time. You hit that with, say, 25 goons left, you're going to be winning the round outright. And the key balance in terms of attack is distance. Your left and right areas are punctuated with meters. When an enemy is within the meter, you punch. If they're outside the meter and you punch, you'll miss. You'll probably get hit then. And your ranking is actually not based on amount of hits. It's amount of misses. So if you actually want to get the best ranking, 5 stars, it's actually better to get hit than to miss. And I believe the threshold is from 1 to 10 misses. And, the big challenge is making, it's very rhythmic combat, but it's very exacting combat. Because, let me tell you, you will be doing this, and you will be doing this a lot. You will start getting into the punches, and then you'll hit the button once too often, and you'll miss.
Yep.
That happened to me a lot. So, you really have to pay attention to the amount of punches you're doing. And feeding into the difficulty is
The first tutorial message you get is do not button mash.
yes,
Mhm.
you will not. You will die if you button mash.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and how many hit points you get actually depends on the level and the type. There are different types of rounds. Your basic fight is called a mob round. There are power weapon rounds. Haven't gotten into the weapons yet, but you will get an assortment of, traditional and let's say non-traditional weapons.
One
Like,
of them I
you know,
got was a lightsaber. So yeah.
That's not
But
even the
traditional.
strangest. Like, sometimes you're using like crates and shit as actual weapons. Now, the point is, what the weapons do, they extend your range for as long as you have that weapon. Sometimes, if you get the weapon outright, those are temporary. But if it's a weapon round, you will have that weapon for the entire round. The catch with that particular round is that will usually be double the amount of goons. Like, so your average level of goons, depending on, difficulty, will be like, say, 60 to 100, 120. Like, weapon rounds, they'll probably be 200 to 300. And yes, that will affect your will to retry and perfect. And let's see, there are the most devious of rounds, the ones that I absolutely could not stand, the multi-rounds. Like, well, it's like as the name suggests, it's not just one round, it's a series of rounds dealing with a cut-down number of opponents. Instead of 100, you'd be getting 45. The thing is, you're probably fighting overall more goons because it goes for like 3 rounds. Or, the most I encountered was 6 rounds. Like, counting like 6 rounds of 45, that got tiresome after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And difficult. Like, so, the other meter of difficulty is speed. Do well enough in a round, and the game will speed up by like X amount of percent. 2%, 5%. Do terrible enough in a round, like by dying or whatever, and the game will slow down. So it's got that dynamic difficulty thing going. If I'm recalling correctly, you can adjust speed in the options menu. Like, anyway.
Yeah, I think this one did options in here. There are actually quite a few options.
Yes, there are customization options that open up after a few rounds. And that's and once again, there's the whole skill point system, which offers a range of upgrades, not just the power up moves I mentioned, but things like extending your range. Believe me, I put 3 points into that as fast as possible. 3 points is the max. Range is really the most important, or one of the most important things in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And the dynamic of range is sometimes you can punch way to the other side, depending on how the rhythm moves. And I'll note, even though this game has a very pulse-pounding soundtrack, like this is this is music that really stood out in the mind. This isn't an actual like rhythm game. You don't time your punches to the music. You time it to the goons on screen. So, don't fall into that trap. Let's see. Something I want to address that I don't think that came up in the interview is appropriateness. And what I might mean by that is, this game is utilizing a lot of iconography from, Kung Fu cinema, especially from like the 1970s. In fact, the name derives from the 1-inch death punch. The the infamous. It's what the name says. You can kill a guy with a punch that only moves 1 inch.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be concerns that this game might be racist. And I'm here to say you might have there might be those concerns within, cultural appropriation, maybe, the whole,
there's a lot of Asian iconography
Yeah.
and stuff. The people who made the game are not particularly Asian, I don't think.
no, it's like, we don't know their ethnicity, but, it's like we know enough that, they're not from China, given the names that are on display. That being said, outside of concerns about iconography, this game is not racist. And that's a really good relief, because this is the kind of thing that can get really, really racist very quickly. I'm like, intentionally or not. It's like go look up a game called Kung Fu Chaos. And that game was released in 2004. It's like Asian stereotyping, broken accents, that whole dilemma. The actual characters here, they're street signs. They're street sign people. It's like, and the announcer, he speaks deep, but he's not speaking, I am a Chinese immigrant who just got here and doesn't know the language too well. Aren't I hilarious kind of deal?
It sounded slightly Chinese-ish to me, but not like a lot.
It's like it may be there, but trust me, like it.
It's not over the top.
It's like maybe in like the voice stylings, because it's going very deep, but like everything the announcer says is smooth and crisp. So, and once again, I don't know the ethnicity of the announcer either. So, I'm just saying, in terms of, let's say, political correctness, there may be mild issues here, but, it's like, if you're getting offended by this game, honestly, it's like, you're trying to pick a fight, I'd say.
Yeah.
Let's see, as far as the graphics themselves, really top notch in spite of all of the abstraction.
Well, there's kind of a funny joke when you start. It basically is the same graphics as the original One Finger Death Punch. And then as you progress through the tutorial, it starts becoming more like what you see on screen now.
Yeah. It is worth noting that this game took about 5 years to develop. And from what I got from the interview was a large portion of that was because of all of the animation. Really taking their time with the visuals. Was it worth spending 5 years of life on, on this particular project? I guess they felt it was worth doing that. Let's see. As far as pricing goes, it is $8. No sort of bundles or DLC. Indeed, maybe they might do a soundtrack option. Like, I think that it's like, honestly, the soundtrack was good enough where I could see an independent purchase. Outside of that, it's like there's really not much more that they could do with the package as it is right now. And, unfortunately, this is kind of the last hurrah. Well, I say kind of because there's still the console version that's coming out later on in the year. And presumably will be priced in parity. I'm like, maybe a release discount. It's like, I don't know, we might get an updated note about that. Anyway, is this game worth it? I'd say mostly yes. It's just, once again, in spite of the amount of content here, this is the kind of thing that's best in like 15 to 30 minute spurts. Because it is just punching in two directions.
Yeah, there are some of them though that they could use a little bit less of an enemy count. Like the one I'm doing right now is 300 dudes.
That's what I was getting. Like, but yeah, it's like it's pretty. The gameplay is pretty addicting, but can also get repetitive really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will make the one note that this game is compatible with and biases actually towards playing with a gamepad, but I'm not actually convinced that that's the best way to play. When I've been playing, I've mostly been putting both of my thumbs on X and B.
Yeah. It's like maybe it would have been smoother with one of the analog sticks, the D-pad.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm just saying if like this seems like it might, because there's so little input, it might be good for keyboard play. I don't even know.
I'm like, honestly, it doesn't really matter what kind of input device you use. Though, for the record, if you do keyboard and mouse, you're doing mouse.
Left and right mouse buttons?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that still kind of works.
It works. Yeah. It really doesn't matter because you're only dealing with two buttons. Now, I just say on a controller, it probably would have been easier, like using a directional pad, but that's probably why they regulated it to the buttons. So it would be a bit more difficult because the difference between maneuvering your finger left and right on a D-pad and on the buttons is actually more profound than you might think. No. That being said, any final thoughts on One Finger Death Punch 2 here?
It's a game you can play.
If you're up for testing your reaction speed, you might enjoy it.
This is probably even a better game to have spectators do then.
Yeah, there is some type of Twitch integration, but I didn't have a chance to get that set up to try it.
But yeah, if you're watching it, you can fully take in all the graphics, where if you're playing it, you're probably mostly paying attention to the bars under people.
Oh yeah, you tunnel real hard. Like, can confirm the tunneling is real.
No doubt. Overall, One Finger Death Punch 2 is one of the better games I've played this year, and probably the best simple game I've experienced in a good long while as well. That's not to say, like other games we have reviewed are worse. It's just this has a lot to it, like literal lot. Like you could actually spend, say, 5-10 hours on this and not be done, which is more than I can say for other simple endeavors, like depending on your interest level.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the rest of you? What are your final takeaways on One Finger Death Punch 2?
It's an enjoyable time.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish I'd had, like, I know I always say this, but I wish I'd had more time to play it.
I'm like, maybe
and I'll probably still pick it up occasionally.
Anyway, so that will do it for this installment of Fragments Silicon. The week ahead, just one interview to do this week after a couple weeks of juggling around two. That isn't to say that we won't have a thing on Friday, because on Wednesday, May 22nd, we'll be having Gabriel Langlois. Sorry, it's got two L's in it. Langlois, yeah, there we go.
Is this a French person? Because that name means the English.
Possibly. I don't know their
It's
ethnicity.
literally French for the English, or the
I'm
English
like,
person.
And Salar Kohari of Cage Studios. Um, we will be talking about. Hang on, I don't have their page up. Sorry about that.
Wah, wah.
It happens. It happens. Yeah. Let's see. No, I don't. Sail and Sacrifice. There we go. It is their open world pirate adventure game, currently in Steam Early Access.
So that's sail with an I, not sail as in commerce.
Yeah. SAIL. Sail and Sacrifice. Think Sid Meier's Pirates sort of thing. Or, you are a pirate. You are doing piratey things.
Mm-hmm.
You know. On Friday, we'll be doing we'll probably be doing a deathmatch event with Blood Fresh Supply.
Oh, man.
Yes. So until Wednesday, I shall wish you good gaming.